In this video, I'm going to go over 5.4 skills practice, solving compound inequalities, but we're just going to cover the and inequalities. In a part 2 video, we'll go over the or inequalities. So the first set that we're going to do are 1, 2, 3, and 4. Looking at number 1, we're just going to graph the solution set of each compound inequality. Remember, with and inequalities, we're looking for the overlap of the two graphs. So first, I have b is greater than -1. I'm going to start my number line. The two numbers that I need to account for are -1 and 3. So I'm going to start at -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. As long as you cover all the numbers that you need for the problem, then you can stop. You don't need to keep going. So if b is greater than -1, I'm going to put an open dot on -1, and that one will be pointing to the right. b is less than or equal to 3 means I'm going to put a closed dot on 3, and that's going to be pointing to the left. So the place where these overlap is in the middle. So my solution is from -1 to 3. You're going to try number 2 on your own. X is greater than 3 and x is less than or equal to 4. Looking at number 3, we have -1 is less than or equal to p is less than or equal to 3. So you can either look at this as is. What this is saying that our answer, or our solution p, is in the middle of -1 and 3. And so this is how I would do it. I would just look and say my endpoints are -1 and it's less than or equal to, so I'm going to put a closed dot on -1 and a closed dot on 3. And my solution p is in the middle. But you can also split this into two different inequalities and look at it that way. We can look at this first one. So we have -1 is less than or equal to p, and we can look at the second one. P is less than or equal to 3. So these are the two inequalities. Remember though, for this first one, -1 is less than or equal to p. I like to have my variable in front, so the big mouth is open to the p, so when I flip it, it should look like this. So I would graph this one and look for the overlap. So I'm going to graph the p is greater than or equal to -1. So I'm going to start at -2. I'll put a closed dot because it's greater than or equal to on -1. And it's greater than that, so I'm going to point to the right. And p is less than or equal to 3. I'm going to put a closed dot on 3. This is pointing to the left. And so my solution is in the middle because it's an and. And if I go back to what I said in the beginning, I already knew that just by looking at it in this form, that there's going to be a closed dot on -1, a closed dot on 3, and my solution in the middle. So you can look at that either way. You're going to try number 4 on your own. Alright, now we're going to skip down to the next section where it says solve each compound inequality, then graph the solution set. So here we're going to work on 9, 10, 11, and 12. I'm going to start with number 9. 4 is less than w plus 3 is less than or equal to 5. So we can solve this just as it is, trying to get the w by itself in the middle. And so the only thing that I need to get rid of is the 3. So if I subtract 3 here, I have to subtract 3 everywhere. And we're going to show that work. 4 minus 3 is 1. I drop down my sign. Less than w. 3 minus 3 cancels, giving me 0. So I drop down my next sign is less than or equal to 5 minus 3 is 2. Now that the w is by itself, I'm finished. So once again, you can think of this as two different inequalities. We can look at the first one. 1 is less than w, and w is less than or equal to 2. And you can graph each of those and look for the overlap, or we can use the strategy I showed above, where we just look at our starting point, which is 1. 1 is less than w, so I'm going to put an open dot on 1. And then w is in the middle of 1 and 2. And so w is less than or equal to 2, so that'll be a closed dot on 2 with our answer in the middle. So that's how I'm going to graph it. So I'll start at -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to have an open dot on 1, a closed dot on 2, and my solution is in between. So it's a small solution set. You're going to try number 10 on your own. All right, let's take a look at number 11. Y minus 1 is greater than 2, and y plus 2 is greater than or equal to 1. The way that this one is set up, I'm going to solve each inequality and then graph and look for the overlap, since this is an and inequality. So first, I have y minus 2 is greater than 2. I'm going to add 1 to both sides, showing my work. The ones cancel, so I have y is greater than 3. Drop down your word and, that's important. For here I have y plus 2 is greater than or equal to 1, so I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides. So I'm left with y, 2 minus 2 is 0, is greater than or equal to -1. So y is greater than 3, and y is greater than or equal to -1. So these are both pointing in the right direction, to the right. Y has to be greater than 3, and y has to be greater than or equal to -1. So if we're looking for the overlap of these, it's going to be on the right-hand side. So if I put an open dot on 3, pointing to the right, and then for this one, I'm going to put a closed dot on -1, pointing to the right. Where do these graphs overlap? Well, they overlap starting here at 3 and going to the right. So actually, we can get rid of this solution because the solution to this inequality is just y is greater than 3. So that's an example like we did yesterday in one of the scenarios. You're going to try number 12 on your own. Next, we're going to move on to 13 and 14. These are the final two and inequalities on the skills practice. Number 13, we have d minus 3 is less than is less than -3d plus 12, which is less than 2d plus 32. This one's a little bit different because I have d here, and d here. So my d is not already in the middle. So what you might first try to do is get all the d's together in the middle. So we might minus d, but if we do it there, we must do it in every section. D minus d will cancel, leaving me with -3 is less than negative 4d plus 12 is less than 2d minus d is d plus 32. Then, to get all my d's together in the middle, I would just need to subtract d here. But if I do it here, I have to do it in all three sections, including on the left. So these would cancel. Negative 4d minus d would give me a negative 5d, but over here I'm adding a d. So what's going to keep happening is my d's are going to keep bouncing back and forth from one side to the other, and I'm never going to get them all together in the middle. So this is an example where we actually do have to split the inequality to be able to solve it, because I'm never going to be able to get the d's all together in the middle, keeping it as is. So I'm going to back up to the beginning. And I'm going to show you how to split. You can solve all inequalities this way, but we're just going to, I'm just going to demonstrate for this one. So we're going to take the first part, d minus 3 is less than negative 3d plus 12. This is the first inequality that we're going to write down. And it's an and inequality. And then we're going to look at the second part, which is negative 3d plus 12 is less than 2d plus 32. Now we can just solve each one. For d, graph and look for the overlap. This one we will actually be able to solve. So starting with the first one, I'm going to get my d's together by adding 3d to both sides and showing that work. I have 1d plus 3d, which is 4d minus 3 is less than 12. I'm going to add 3 to both sides. 4d is less than 15. And then I'm going to divide both sides by 4. So I get d is less than 15 over 4. And I'm going to go ahead and solve this other one. First I'm going to get my d's all together on the left. Negative 3d minus 2d is negative 5d plus 12 is less than 32. I'm going to subtract 12. And then I'm going to divide by negative 5. But remember, we're dealing with inequalities. Anytime I divide by a negative, I have to flip my sign. So the negative 5s will cancel, and I'm left with d is greater than negative 4. So here's my solution. D is less than 15 over 4, and d is greater than negative 4. So first I want to think about what 15 over 4 is. So I'm going to think of it as either a decimal or a mixed fraction, so I know where to put it on the number line. I'm going to go ahead and just divide it out and look at it as a decimal. So 15 divided by 4 is 3.75. So I need to start down here at like negative 5. All right, if d is less than 3.75, 3.75 would be close to 4, the open dot, pointing to the left. And then d is greater than negative 4, that's going to have an open dot on negative 4, pointing to the right. So my solution is in the middle of these two, where they overlap. You're going to try number 14 on your own.